Good evening and welcome. Tonight we'll be going over the history and geography of Costa Rica. And if you know the order of the countries that I'm going in, you know what's coming for this upcoming few weeks or so. Welcome to Central America weeks, season, fortnight, not sure. We're going to be covering almost all the countries in Central America, save for two of them. If you know the order, you already know what two they are. So, we're starting off with Costa Rica, which is an amazing country. It's one of those places that after doing all this research on it, I'm like, oh, that's on the list of countries I have to see, because it sounds like a really amazing place. Let me tell you about its geography and then its history, and then we'll flip through this book and look at some of the amazing pictures inside. So Costa Rica, like I said, is in Central America. It's only bordered by Nicaragua up here and Panama right here. So it's in that isthmus area where North America and South America meet and come together. Costa Rica is dominated by mountains, and they run kind of like in a spine in the middle of the country here. There's a lot of different mountain ranges. They're not listed on here. I checked my big atlas too, which lists all of them, but you can't really see any of the mountain ranges like you can on this map, so I picked this one. There's a much better one in this book though that I'll show you that shows all the places I'm going to tell you about in this section. So Costa Rica, where it's located in the world, is on the Ring of Fire. Thank you, Car, for the sound effect for the Ring of Fire. It is a ring around the Pacific Ocean that is dotted with volcanic and seismic activity. So Costa Rica is home to lots of earthquakes, and it has lots of volcanoes as well. It has about 14 volcanoes, around 6 of which are still active. So let me tell you about some of them. Let's go north to south through the different mountain ranges. Up here near Nicaragua, we have the Guanacaste range, and there's a couple of volcanoes up there. But if we move down to here, we have the Tiloran range, which is a smaller one, but it has Arenal, which is one of the most iconic volcanoes in Costa Rica. I think because it's like what I call a cartoon volcano, because if you're watching Looney Tunes, or if you asked a 5-year-old to draw a picture of a volcano, it would look like that, right? That's what Arenal looks like. It's also near the big reservoir up here, Lake Arenal, which is the largest lake in Costa Rica. Then we go down to the Central Range, which is pretty much right about here. It is home to Poas, which is a really big, it's a big volcano, but it has the biggest caldera. It's got a lake in it and everything, and it's still an active volcano, so it kind of works like a geyser sometimes. It hasn't really erupted in about, let's say the last one was in the 1950s, I want to say, so, but it steams because of the lake at the top. It's really cool. It's about here. And then there's Irazu, which is about, that one is around here or so. And it is the tallest volcano in Costa Rica. Also a very beautiful one. And then we move down to the Talamanca range, which you can see right here. It's definitely the big one that goes into Panama. And it's where the highest point in Costa Rica is. This is Chiripo Grande. Very big mountain. In between the Central Range and the Talamanca Range is an area known as the Central Valley. You can see these cities right here that are in it, including the capital city of San Jose. This area, because normally the more mountainy regions are the least inhabited ones, it's the opposite in Costa Rica. This valley here has a lot of rainfall, and the volcanic soil makes it very fertile. So historically there's been lots of farms and things growing there, and it's where most of the people live. but the coastlines are also really remarkable places because it borders the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. So over here on the Pacific, we have two big peninsulas. They have a couple of other little ones, like up here and down here is part of it, but these are the major ones. This is Nikoia Peninsula, and it's more of like the lowlands area. Like it's still very hilly and rugged, but nothing like the rest of the country. It's super mountainous and forested. So this area is mainly known for its cattle ranching. And the Osa Peninsula down here has a lot of banana plantations, but it's also home to one of the more famous national parks called Corcovado. Costa Rica is 25% national parks. They're very serious about preserving their very beautiful rainforests, keeping it safe, and including a very special one, which is about 400 or so miles that way on an island in the Pacific. It's called Isla Del Coco, and it's entirely a national park that is highly protected because it's rumored that long ago pirates had buried treasure there. So it's not just protected because of the rich wildlife and plant life, but they don't want people going and trying to dig around for treasure, destroying the environment, especially since there might not even be treasure there, you know. So that's what the Pacific coast is mainly famous for. You can imagine the Caribbean coast is very famous for its beaches, for surfing, for all the wonderful things that the Caribbean Sea provides along the coastlines. The city of Limon, or Puerto Limon, is there, which is its main shipping city. Being on the Caribbean, they could ship out things to Europe and the Americas up there. So, in a nutshell, that's basically the geography of Costa Rica. Very interesting country. Can't wait to show you the pictures, but let's talk about history first. So, if you know the story of human migration, you know people came down from like Siberia and Russia, the land bridge to Alaska, and then down here and down into South America. So the native peoples that lived in this isthmus region are just the ones that kind of hung out and decided, yeah, this spot's good enough, I guess we'll hang out here. So the first humans would have arrived sometime around 10,000 and 7,000 BCE. Agriculture started around 5,000 years ago or so. It's very unknown. The very early cultures with Costa Rica are very mysterious. There's a couple of cities that kind of like the Mayans had huge cities that were mysteriously abandoned. So we still don't really know much about those. Also, there was one culture called the Tikis who made giant spheres out of rocks, and they were scattered all throughout their territory, and nobody knows like how they were made, why they were made. Some of them are tiny, some of them are huge. They're perfect spheres too. It looks almost like alien, but it's really neat, I think. I don't think that I think that should just remain a mystery because it's cool as it is. I don't want to know why they were made because the answer is probably really boring. It's probably something like a road sign or something, or a grave marker, but just leave the mystery there. It's a cool one. I'll show you pictures in here of it. There weren't as many native peoples in this corner of the world as there were like up there in the Mayan and Aztec world and down there in the Incan world, but there were still some, and two major tribes still exist today. They live in reservations in the south here near Panama. They are the Bribri and the Boruca, and there'll be some pictures in here of some of those native peoples. But life in this area changed completely in 1502 when some guy named Christopher Columbus sailed by, came to one of the islands on the coast here, said, this place looks kind of neat, but he really liked the fact that the native peoples here had some pretty cool gold jewelry. So the few people that lived here did some trading with some of their southern neighbors and a couple of their northern ones, where there was a lot more gold, especially in the south. So when they saw this gold, Columbus was like, oh, cool, this place has gold, obviously. And in 1522, an explorer named Gil Gonzalez de Villa would have come up this coast. And he also saw people with gold jewelry and was like, awesome, this place is a gold mine. And it's not sure who coined the name, but it was one of those two men. Costa Rica means rich coast, because they thought there were riches there along the coast. So when Spanish settlers came to find this gold in the area, they came up dry. There was no gold in the area. So it was very widely ignored compared to other parts of Central and South America for Spain. What is now Costa Rica became part of the Viceroyalty of New Spain, which was pretty much all of Central America. This part of it was known as the Captaincy General of Guatemala, which pretty much consisted of every country from Guatemala down here to Costa Rica. This was the southernmost part. And like I said, there weren't a lot of native people living here as there were in other parts of Central and South America. So the Spanish people couldn't really capture the natives and enslave them on their plantations. So mostly just small farms were built in this area. Not a lot of slave labor, practically none really. And not a lot of major crops being grown because the farms were so small. So it was considered like the backwater of the colonies of Spain. It was sort of the poor one in terms of like economy and quality of life. That all changed on September 15th, 1821, when Guatemala declared independence. And they made all of the regions of the Captaincy General of Guatemala independent as well, which included Costa Rica. But that fell apart in 1838, and it all split apart. So Costa Rica never fought for its independence. It was just kind of de facto independence. They were just handed it multiple times throughout history. They just became more and more independent as time went on. So what was Costa Rica to do now that it was all on its own? Well, in the 1800s, like early 1800s, coffee started to be planted in the farmlands here. And they thought they could make that into a good import. So they sold the coffee to England, where the English were very excited and spent a lot on Costa Rican coffee. And it became a huge export boom, to the point where rich coffee barons were in control of the government and practically the way of life. It was almost tyrannical in a way. The problem was that, as you know from its geography, this is all very mountainous and forested, but here's the farmland. So they'd been using like carts pulled by oxen to get the coffee to Limon to export it. So the government was like, we need a railroad. So in the 1870s, they commissioned an American named Minor C. Keith to build a railroad from the farmland here to Limon. And it basically changed Costa Rica forever in a multitude of ways. One of which was that the government gave Keith a lot of the land around the railroad to do with as he pleased. And he started planting bananas there. And that gave rise to a huge banana industry. It really, really took off in a big way. It still is today. I know Dole grows a lot of their bananas in Costa Rica. But his banana farms gave eventually, down the road, it gave way to the United Fruit Company, which would essentially replace the coffee barons in terms of political power and sway over how everything worked in Costa Rica. Also, the people who built this railroad were not just Costa Ricans. People came from Jamaica, and of course would permanently settle afterward. People came from China, who would also permanently settle. There were some from the poorer areas of Europe, like in what is now Germany, would come here. And they also contracted some convicts from Louisiana in the United States to come work the railroad. So very suddenly, this very what's it called? Like, not homogenized culture suddenly had all these different cultures coming to it, and they stayed permanently. So that changed Costa Rica forever as well in terms of demographics. So eventually that railroad was built, and they were able to export all that coffee out so much more efficiently, and that boosted the economy again in a very major way, not to mention they now had this banana industry that exploded, right? So, in 1917, one man chose violence and took over the country. His name was Federico Tinoco. He was a pretty wealthy businessman. He said, I could run this country better as a dictator. And people protested against him. And his mistake was that his troops not only fired at the protesters, but some of those protesters took refuge in a U.S. consulate, and they fired on that. So the United States was like, excuse you. And they helped organize his overthrow in 1919, and he was forced into exile. The government went back to what it was. It was the last major big coup in Costa Rica. There would be one other very violent event in 1948, when after a disputed election, a man named Jose Figueres Ferrer led a civil war to try to resolve this election. And it was very, very violent. For the course of 44 days, 2,000 people had lost their lives. But in the end, the government that was established in the aftermath of that said that changes needed to be made. The major one was that they abolished the army. And to this day, Costa Rica does not have a permanent military. If there are military events, which there have been some small skirmishes in their history since then, they take volunteers. They have like a police force, but there's no official military in Costa Rica. And they took that money that would have been put to the military and put it toward education and healthcare, which of course boosted the quality of life in Costa Rica. When you're healthy and educated, everybody wins, honestly, in my opinion. And that action has led Costa Rica to where it is today. It is a very democratically stable country. All their elections since then have been fair and without any big disputes. They've even had a female president. You'll see pictures of her in here because she was president when this book came out. And what also very much changed the country was in 2010s, they started investing in ecotourism. And Costa Rica is one of the top countries to visit for ecotourism. Their tourism industry is huge at this point. And to the point where it's, I think I read this somewhere, I didn't write it down, how their tourism industry is now more profitable than their banana and coffee industry. So that's pretty exciting. Pretty much the future is very bright for Costa Rica. It's very smooth sailing, and a lot of other countries in Central America have not had smooth sailing, and Costa Rica helps navigate some of that, particularly in Nicaragua. One of the presidents of Costa Rica, you see his picture in here, when Nicaragua was like choosing violence and deciding to try to invade Costa Rica, the president put a stop to it, and he also put a stop to a lot of violence throughout Central America, and he won the Nobel Peace Prize for that. So let me show you some pictures in here, because I keep teasing you about it. First of all, speaking of ecotourism, look at this. Look at this, like bridge. You could climb up here and rappel down. I'm too chicken to do that, or this. I'd be crying. But isn't this stunning? That's amazing. That's just one of the many sights you can see in Costa Rica. She's got her horse here. That's awesome. And look at this. Boo. It's a sweet little treat frog. So cute. Let's see what we've got. Some very beautiful street art here. It's gorgeous. There's a political map of Costa Rica. You can see lots of the major cities and some of the national parks as well. Like I said, 25% of the country is national parks. This is the guy I was telling you about. Oscar Arias Sanchez. He's winning the Nobel Peace Prize. We've got some more amazing ecotourism pictures. That's stunning. And this person's on a zip line, which also I would be in tears, shaking and sobbing because I'm not a heights person, but it does look stunning, doesn't it? Look at this. Along the coastline, all that beautiful green, the rich coast. Now it is rich in a way that the Spanish explorers would have never dreamed of, right? So this is Poas, I was telling you about, this huge crater here, and it's filled with water, so now it's like a big geyser. 1954 it was earned. This is Arenal, like I said, a cartoon volcano. It's erupting here. And this was after the earthquake in 1910 that destroyed a lot of the major buildings in Costa Rica. Let's see. More beautiful, beautiful forest with the mountains in the background. And here's a physical map. So here you can see all the mountains I was telling you about. Up here in the Guanacaste, we have Rican de la Vieja, we have Miravales, Arenal, Poas, got Turrialba and Irazu, Cerro de la Muerte, that's a great name for a volcano, and Chirripo Grande, as well as all the different mountain ranges you can see there. This talks about the deforestation and Costa Rica's big attempts to make sure that that does not happen. Here's some fertile farmland. This person's growing pineapples. Beautiful beach. And horseback riding on the beach, that's a dream. Here are some of the cities. This one is Puerto Limon. You can see the Caribbean right there. And this is, let's see, oh, this is Alajuela, which is right here near the capital. See the big mountains there. Some beautiful fish. This is off Isla del Coco. Big national park there. You can go scuba diving. And in the Caribbean, oh no, this isn't the Caribbean, this is on Lake Arenal. It's very popular for windsurfing because it's up high in the mountains or it's windy. You can go windsurfing. It is a very rainy country, being located where it is in the world, near the Caribbean and fairly close to the equator. Not quite, but close enough. It's a very beautiful hummingbird. It's the green thorntail hummingbird. The national flower is the Guardia Morada. It's very purple. There's some mangrove trees that grow in salt water. And the national tree, the Guanacaste. Big, big tree. Lots of shade there. Here's a sweet little iguana and a little capuchin monkey. So cute. We've got the national animal, which is the white-tailed deer, which you would think in this part of the world with all the rainforests they would have a more exotic national animal, but no, it's this deer. Here's a blue morpho butterfly. Very famous butterfly. We've got some sea turtles. There's a national park about up here that's called Tortuguero National Park, which you can guess by the name is where a lot of turtles go to lay their eggs. And here's a big whale shark. That would be so cool. That's another dream of mine. Here's the Monteverde National Park, which this bridge is in so many pictures during my research. This bridge popped up in like more pictures for Costa Rica than any other place. But like it is very beautiful, isn't it? Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Ooh, this is a vase, it says. Look at that. Is it his mouth or his belly? I don't know, but it's cool. I like that. Some of the gold jewelry that the Diquis people made. It says they were accomplished goldsmiths. And look, here's some of the spheres that they made. It's perfectly round rocks. This guy's studying it. But again, I believe don't try to solve the mystery. It's cooler not knowing it. There's some guy named Chris who's like, I think I should sail that way. And there's King Ferdinand being like, okay, where's that Isabella? That looks like Isabella. My bad. Sorry, Isabella. This is one of those sites I told you about where this was an ancient city. It had about 10,000 people living there. and it was very suddenly abandoned, and no one knows why, and it's not very well excavated, so some mysteries could still be found there. We've got some European explorers. So this was Columbus's trail. He landed here on Uvita Island. He went up that way. And this was Davila, who came up here to the peninsula. Looks like he had one team go across the land, one team sail around, and they went up that way. It looks like they reached Lake Nicaragua and thought they reached the sea, because that's a very large lake. I should say that Nicaragua is very, very particular about their border with Costa Rica. They have throughout history. This part here is a river. Let me show you right here. The Rio San Juan, coming down from Lake Nicaragua, which has had a lot of border disputes. But Lake Nicaragua does not border Costa Rica. It just barely does, but not quite. They said no lake for you. This is depicting the independence from the Spanish. And this is a map of the United Provinces of Central America, the country that was formed after independence. And it was mainly ran in Guatemala, and it eventually broke apart. Kind of like Gran Colombia down in South America. So this guy, oh my gosh, this is William Walker. He was an American who had this great idea to invade Central America, create some new states in order to make them slave states, because it was during that part of American history when more states are being made. It was like, should they be slave states? Should they be free states? So this guy's like, let's make more slave states in Central America. So he straight up invaded Nicaragua. Then he tried to invade Costa Rica, and they fought back, chased them out of the country. And then he went to go invade Honduras, where he was executed, because they were like, go away, what are you even doing here, get out. But it wasn't just like him. He had an army that was financed by a lot of like pro-slave rich people in the United States. Just a crazy guy. So here's the railroad and all the bananas that they've piled up to put onto the train. Look at this bridge for the railroad. So many, many, many people lost their lives building this railroad, including some of Minor Keith's family even died trying to build it. And you can really see why. Very treacherous track there. Here is in San Jose. They really, after the big earthquake in 1910, they really went to like rebuilding and beautifying the city. So a lot of buildings like this were built. There'll be more in here. This is Federico Tinoco, who was dictator for 2 years before he was thrown out. This is Jose Figueres Ferrer, who led the Civil War. Looks like they're very excited about it. And there's another picture of him. He became president for like a minute until he, after the transition, he gave it to the president that he believed won the election. But he was very important for all the social changes in Costa Rica that still exist today. So this is, I almost pointed at Ronald Reagan, Alberto Monge Alvarez, who was president in the 80s. And this is one of the skirmishes with Nicaragua where times got tense, and it took Oscar Arias Sanchez to calm it down. Here he is with a cardinal from Nicaragua doing some peace talks. And here is San Jose today. Very bustling, busy city. This lady here is casting her vote for Presidente. And this is Laura Chinchilla. She was president when this book came out. And here's some pictures of San Jose. Here's a map of the provincial downtown area. Big bustling city. And this is a museum. You can see Museo Nacional. And it used to be an army fortress, and apparently you can still see like bullet holes in the walls and stuff. It's pretty cool. Some cabinet members working hard there. And here is the flag of Costa Rica. Let's read about it. It says, The Costa Rican flag has 5 horizontal stripes. The top and bottom stripes are dark blue, the middle stripe is red, and the stripes between the red and blue stripes are white. So we have dark blue, we have the red middle stripe, the white stripes in between those. Blue represents democracy and growth in the country. White represents wisdom, happiness, and peace. Red represents the warmth of the people and the blood of their sacrifices. Costa Rica's national emblem, or coat of arms, appears on the red stripe. It features 3 volcano peaks. You can't really see. 3 volcano peaks, sailing ships, and the rising sun. Above the scene are 7 stars, representing the 7 provinces of Costa Rica. The flag was officially adopted in 1906. And here is President Chinchilla talking to the Legislative Assembly, it says. This would be the Supreme Electoral Tribunal building. I guess. And here are the, there are the provinces, Costa Rica. And here's some very prideful people. Looks like they're in a parade. This guy's got some nanners. Very green, ready to sell. And here are some cattle being herded by the rancher there. Now, this is interesting. Did you know that every single baseball in Major League Baseball in the United States is made in Costa Rica? These people are all making baseballs for the MLB. I didn't know that. That's really interesting. Here's a resources map. You can really see where stuff is like grown here. It's got the cattle up there, tuna, being grown, and lots of things being mined in the mountains. Here's their currency. It's called the colon. I'm pretty sure it's different now. This is the old one. They redesigned it recently, but it still has animals on it. This guy's working on some microchips. Another big industry that's boomed recently. And of course, coffee is still around. It's being sifted here, being processed. There's a bus. Looks like, I bet you it's carrying some tourists out to the forest. And this guy's reading his newspaper. Is that, hold on, is this like one of those people that pretend to be statues, or is that a real statue? I think it's one of those people pretending to be statues. That's funny. Ah, sweet. Tico is what people from Costa Rica call themselves. If they're women, they're ticas. This is cool. This is a German restaurant. When I saw this picture first, I got really excited because it's my people's food. Yummy, yummy, yummy. And here's a population map. You can really see where the majority of people live here in the Central Valley. And looks like another parade happening here. These wonderful smiles. And these are Bri children having a good swim in the river. And the other native group is the Boruca. This is one of their big festivals. It's called the Festival of Little Devils. And it celebrates like their conquest over the Spanish, basically. Or like the We're Still Here festival, basically. And Chinese New Year celebrated. Like I said, they do have a Chinese population. And this is talking about immigrants, illegal immigrants that come mostly from Nicaragua to find work on the farms in Costa Rica. Iguana crossing. Watch out for iguanas. Here's a very beautiful Catholic church. Being a Spanish colony, Catholicism is the major religion. And here are some. This is evangelical Christians on the National Day of Prayer. So this is the Basilica of Our Lady of the Angels. It's one of those buildings that was rebuilt after the earthquake, and it's very exquisite. So this is apparently part of a statue. Don't see, apparently, oh, there it is. It's right here. So one day, this girl was playing around And she found on this rock this little statue that looked like the Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus. So she brought it home. When she woke up the next day, it was gone and it was back on the rock. So she took it to her local priest and they locked it up. And the next day it was gone and it was back on the rock. So after the earthquake, right? Or no, it was before that. It was when they were first building it. During the first construction of this basilica, they moved it to where that rock is so that this little statue could stay at home. This is the Parade of Lights. It's one of the Christmas traditions in Costa Rica. Looks like a lot of fun. Very beautiful statue outside the National Theater. There's Beethoven's just chilling in the corner there, looking very gloomy as usual. Very beautiful statue made by Francisco Zuniga. And one of the old Colón dollars, which features a beloved author, Maria Isabel Carvajal. And some beautiful ballet dancers dancing at a festival. It says Punto Guanacaste. And playing the marimba. That's a fun instrument. And this is the inside of the National Theater building. They're playing some guitars. He's really into it. This is Olympic swimmer Claudia Pol Arens, who won the first gold medal for Costa Rica at the Olympics. And it's a lovely day for surfing on the beach. Look at this face. That's a good smile too. Very sweet. A little house which is built on stilts, so when it rains and it floods, it doesn't damage the house. This doctor's checking up on this baby. Working hard in school. And these ladies are on their way to school. This picture's in the book I'm going to read to you tomorrow. That's funny. Some food. We've got some plantains there. Looks like corn and rice and beans. Some meats. Yum yum. Some cornbread here. It says bread or cake. Now this looks good. This is elote. And I really want to try it because I don't like cornbread. Because to me, cornbread doesn't have a flavor. At least here in America, it just tastes like nothing to me. So I want to try sweet cornbread because I bet that has a better flavor. Making some coffee, of course, very traditional. Oh, isn't that the best? Doesn't that bring back memories of childhood? I loved these kind of cones. I used to not eat the ice cream all the way, so I would chomp into this and it would be like a little ice cream sandwich. And we're at the market buying some onions, maybe potatoes, I'm not sure. That's the end of our book. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video relaxing and educational. Like I said, I have another video about Costa Rica coming up for you tomorrow, and there are a lot more Central American countries coming up on my channel, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Thank you again, and I hope you have a very good